And in my mind, it has to do with that consistency of culture. There are charter school networks. I'm thinking of, say, KIPP or Yes Prep or Achievement First or Uncommon that may be larger or comparable size. But there's always an outlier. There's always one or two weak sisters. So the fact that there's not one here is worth discussing.
The other part that I found so extraordinary is that I think of the 2,000 staff or 2,000 teachers in the year that in the system that you looked at, 900 were new or doing new roles, having new roles in the school, and they're under unimaginable pressure. I mean, it's hard to be a student in this school because the expectations are very high, but it's incredibly hard to be a teacher.
Goodness. Yeah, the turnover is prodigious. And look, that's a New York advantage. You couldn't do this in Utica. You couldn't do this in Youngstown, Ohio. When you have an attractive urban environment like New York City, that's, every day you can go to Port Authority and, find another 24-year-old who wants to close the achievement gap. I mean, I'm being glib, but you take my point. It's an attractive proposition, less so in other parts of the country. But yeah, look, they really do work their teachers incredibly hard. There's no doubt in my mind that two things are true. I could never work there because I'm 57 years old. I can't work that hard anymore. Yeah. But boy, do I wish I had trained there 20 years ago as a teacher instead of the training that I got from the New York City Department of Education and others. I would have been, and my students would have been far better off had I trained there.
So one of the challenges of being a teacher that most, I think, non-teachers can't appreciate until they've either been in a classroom or seen their own kids in a classroom is classroom management by itself is not straightforward in 2020 especially, or even in 2016 when you were there. And it can't be the whole thing, though. It's a necessary condition for learning that there be enough quiet and calm in the room for people to absorb material, but it's not enough. And what did you see pedagogically beyond the conformity to certain norms of behavior? Mm-hmm. How would you describe what makes Success Academy distinctive and what they teach? Because you can have a really well-run classroom, but that doesn't mean you're going to get high test scores.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, one just to complete the thought on the young staff, they seem to have cracked the code on getting really good results, test results, with relatively inexperienced staff. Not right off the street. They have an intake process. They've got an assistant teacher model. You're an assistant teacher before you lead a classroom. But they've routinized it in a way that a lot of other folks have not. I talked about some of the ways in which Success Academy is not a model for other schools, charter or traditional public schools. Well, here's one way in which they are. They have a curriculum. Now, look, this is confirmation bias on my part. I'm a curriculum fetishist.
Well, you've already confessed that when you were a teacher, you nobody gave you to find your own.
That's why I became one.
It's horrifying.
Because, surely this can't be best practice. But my particular interest in education as an analyst is curriculum and instruction. That's what I thought I was going to see at Success Academy, and I sort of did. Look, they make decisions in terms of their curriculum that are not necessarily the ones that I would make. I'm an unrepentant disciple of E.D. Hirsch Jr., who some of our listeners may know as the author of Cultural Literacy. Way back when he runs or founded the Core Knowledge Foundation. This is the guy who says, broadly oversimplifying, that kids need a lot of background knowledge and they need a broad education in science and history and art and music, etc. So that's my flavor. Success Academy is not that, but they are, I think I say this in the book, they're a school that Hirsch would feel comfortable with. So that while they're not making curricular decisions that are precisely what I would make, they're pretty good. And their math curriculum, I've actually changed my thinking about math because of what I saw there. I think they've just, they're knocking it out of the park on math. But the significant factor is there is a curriculum. There was a RAND study done some years ago that showed that teachers, virtually all teachers, like 98% of teachers in America, are using materials they either created or found themselves in their lessons. Look, that is this is where we need economists, right?
That's nuts.
That is a prodigious waste of time. Even if you are creating the best lessons known to man, unknown and unknowable. Well, that's time that you're not spending studying student work, building relationships with students, deepening your own pedagogical skill and knowledge, giving feedback to students. There's not one thing I can think of that wouldn't be more valuable for a teacher to do than spend 10, 20, 30 hours a week with the empty plan book by his or her elbow thinking, what am I going to teach this week? That's got to change. And they don't do that at Success Academy. So they're
because they give you curriculum.
There's a curriculum, and they make a great virtue of what they call intellectual preparation. Planning to teach the lesson as opposed to planning the lesson. So they do all those things that we just talked about, giving feedback, developing questioning strategies, etc. If there's one thing that American education at large can and should take from Success Academy, it's that.